arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
Hello and welcome to the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. I'm Vicky.
I'm Rachel.
We are back again.
Hi.
We just had one really interesting warning.
Oh my God.
We're not going to talk about it, but just know that it was interesting.
It's classified information.
Welcome to the show. If this is your first time listening, a special hello to you.
Come on in.
How has your weekend been going? Your summer cicadas are here.
Oh my God.
In Illinois in full force.
See, I feel like, do you get them where you live?
So I don't have them where I live, but they are all over where my office is at.
Okay.
Because I think there's more. Well, it's weird because I live kind of in the middle of nowhere. We live kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of green space and trees and foresty areas, right? And I've heard them outside of town by where I am, but not in the same level as
I think we're too
by my
far
office.
north.
Yeah. It was like walking from the parking garage into the building was treacherous. I would have just flying at my face.
Oh, no.
Huge, giant. I know. I'm like, I would rather deal with June bugs than with cicadas. I'm trying to remind myself that they're like, I think they're good for the environment in a way. So I heard that somewhere and I'm like, okay, it's probably
sure they
fine.
are.
But I'm over it.
I'd be wearing like a motorcycle helmet. I'd be like,
I feel like I need to sometimes.
You should get one
There's
of those
a dead
like
one in the back of my car window.
Fly swatters and just like
on my way into work, some
just
crazy woman with an electric fly swatter.
Yeah.
And it's not even that long of a walk. It's just like
you're gonna Venus and Serena, just like serve.
Serve.
It's serving.
Anyway,
it's giving.
We are going to move on. I think we need to head over to the newsroom.
Unfit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad.
This week, our news comes from Florida.
Uh-oh.
It is, so I'm looking at ABC News right now. Basically what happened is a priest and a woman get into a physical altercation while he's administering communion and he bites her.
What?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So basically in March, this woman comes through the communion line and she kind of didn't really seem like she knew what was happening.
She didn't know the drill.
She didn't know the drill. Yeah. So he was like, before we can give you communion, you need to go do confession.
Okay.
And then come back and we can give you communion as like
he's
part
like,
of the
get
thing.
in the other line. It's like the DMV. Like, no, girl, you can't be over here. You have to go to the other line.
Right.
That's so confusing.
Right. Yeah. So she came back again, I think at a later service. Like she was there in the morning, came back for a later service the same Sunday.
Okay.
And he
like,
asked,
I want my wine.
He asked her if she had gone to confession, and she was like, "It is none of your business." And
Queen.
So he offered her Holy Communion, and then she tried to grab for more of like the wafers.
What?
And so he was holding this tray of wafers and she was trying to grab at him and he had one hand free. And so he was like trying to restrain this woman and she pushed him. And so he bit her hand so she would let go of the tray.
Oh my
that he was holding.
God. Over crackers?
Yeah,
They're
over
not even that
crackers.
good.
Yeah.
It's not like they're like sour cream and onion or anything. They're just like plain.
No, they're
That's
just
not worth it, I feel.
communion wafers. Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah, so she was asked to leave immediately. It's, yeah.
So is it like vampire rules? Is she going to go home and like turn into a priest because he bit her? Is it like True Blood?
That would be wild. Wild.
If like the Pope dies, all other Catholics die out.
The
It's vampire rules.
It's like
why
the
they live so
alternate
long.
storyline of Midnight Mass. Is
Yes.
just
That would be so funny. Not just this one priest is a vampire. All
Yeah.
of them are.
yeah.
That's what it is.
So they're doing an investigation.
How did it get to that? That is so
I know.
weird.
It seems like one of those situations that just like unexpectedly escalates far too quickly.
Yeah, like maybe
way
they
too
both
quickly.
had a bad day. Mm-hmm. Like all day he was like, that lady better have gone to confession.
She also could have been having a mental health crisis.
Right.
There are these kinds of things that happen too.
course.
And they say they don't really know any of her background.
Right.
And they basically, the church has said, we don't obviously condone violence,
Right.
but in this case, he was obviously trying to fight somebody off.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They were like, he stood
Florida.
on business. Yeah, that's Florida.
Florida. We're going to move on to Netflix and Kill, which this week is a Peacock and I don't know. It's
And
on Peacock.
Peruse.
We're talking about
and
Peacock.
Peruse.
So there is, I know you are not necessarily a sports fan.
Correct.
However, there is a great documentary on Peacock called The Bronx Zoo 90s Yankees.
I have no idea what this is.
Okay, so there's this documentary. It is about the 1990s Yankees team,
Okay.
which I thought, okay. Yes,
Okay.
baseball.
I don't know why I lied to you
The
guys to pretend I was
Yankees
smarter.
is baseball.
I was like,
No.
is that baseball? I don't know.
So,
That's sad.
yeah, Yankees are a baseball team.
Oh, good. Good to know.
So this documentary looks at the 90s Yankees, which was like the most dysfunctional team. And they had probably a terrible season that later on, like the next year, I think they went to the World Series. So it's
Oh,
fine.
wow. Okay.
But there was controversy after controversy. It started with their manager being fired. And the owner is this guy who is very reminiscent of, they compare him a lot to Donald Trump in his sort of like, the
Arrogance.
way, yeah, he like the way he does interviews,
Uh-huh.
the way that he handles business and
Oh, so
business
he
transactions.
So he literally sucks.
And well, and this was a
We
time
hate
when Donald Trump was big in New York,
Ew.
like in the 90s.
I don't think he's ever been big anywhere.
Okay, listen, we're not a political podcast. You gotta
just
be
talking stature.
objective
He's got
sometimes.
small hands. I'm just talking
You gotta be
stature.
objective
I'm being
sometimes, girl.
scientific.
So anyway, so they are like bringing people on the team and trying to trade people, and there's controversy between players and the owner.
Okay.
There is also, okay, this is where things get weird. They recruit this guy from, I think, the Dominican Republic, maybe Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I forget which. And
Like to
he
play
does
baseball?
yes, and he does a lot of cocaine. That's an issue.
Okay,
They
yeah.
have a player on their team who is like coercively dating like a 14 or 15-year-old girl
Oh my God.
very publicly.
Ew.
So
That's
that was happening.
disgusting.
There's also this whole like extortion thing happening in the background with the
What?
owner. This is why I'm like, even as not a sports fan, if
Yeah,
you're
that
not a
sounds
sports fan,
fascinating.
you should watch this documentary because it was fucking wild.
Oh my God.
It's wild.
Did I mishear you? Did you say something about a zoo?
Yeah, it's called the Bronx Zoo. That's
Why?
because so the team is based in Bronx, and like the Bronx Zoo is an actual zoo. So it's like
Right. I
yeah.
was like, where do the animals come? I'm an idiot.
no, and also
literally
because the baseball
stupid.
team was a fucking zoo. That's why.
Got it.
It's called the Bronx Zoo.
It's like a metaphor.
90s Yankees.
Got
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
Now you guys know. You're welcome.
so anyway.
Sounds interesting.
Yes, yeah. And this all happened within like an 8-month span.
Oh, I love that.
in the 90s.
That is so fun. That sounds chaotic.
Yeah,
AF.
it's really good. It's only like 3 episodes, I think.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty short. It's a quick watch. It's on
Nice.
Peacock. Definitely would recommend it.
Oh, cool.
Definitely recommend it. We're going to move on to the show
topic?
part of the show. Yeah, this is that part of the show where we say content may not be appropriate for all listeners. That's what I was looking for.
It may not.
Yes. Okay. So we are going to be talking about instances of murder.
Yeah.
Suicide, some really heavy shit. So just take care.
Yeah, be careful.
But this week, I decided we're going to do a heavy hitter, like bing, bang, boom. We haven't done something really, really, well, actually we did last week, last episode.
Yeah, last episode was sad.
Yeah. So this week we're talking.
She's like, it's been too happy around here.
Yeah. We got to
Turn that smile upside down.
We're talking Familicide today.
Dun, dun, dun.
Summertime, spending time with your families. Be thankful that this isn't happening. I know. Listen, I need a reminder. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
This is what we're here for.
Yeah. You right.
So the story that I am going to talk about today comes to us courtesy of a guy at a bank.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why. So occasionally for work, I have to make the bank run at the end of the day. And it sometimes takes some time to process. So I'm just like, you'll stand in the lobby of the bank, right? And one of the guys that works there, as happens with, I'm a chatter. I'm a chit-chatter.
Really?
We get chit-chatting. I know, right?
I know.
Big surprise. Same. Big surprise. So we get chatting, and as it sometimes happens, it comes up that I host a podcast, and he was like a couple of times, like the second or third time after that I came back, he was like, hey, have you heard of this case?
Oh,
and I was like,
that.
no, I haven't. Let me put it in my notes app. So this one is for you. I forget what his name is, but this one is for you, my
Shout
guy at the
out.
bank.
What's
you know who you
up?
are. Yes. So on that note, my story comes from the super nearby town of Naperville, Illinois.
Oh, hey, neighbor.
And we are going to be looking at a woman named Marilyn Lemak.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this case at all?
I don't think so.
Okay. Hang on to your pants.
I'm only wearing shorts.
Well, you're already
hanging.
out to a bad start.
I know. Story of my life. Tell me something I don't know.
So Marilyn Lemak married Dr. David Lemak in 1985 while working as a registered nurse. They had 3 kids, Nicholas, Emily, and Thomas, and they settled in Naperville. But as it often happens, the marriage was not as it appeared on the outside. And by April 1997, Marilyn had filed for divorce.
Okay.
Just 4 months later, she decided to drop the filing.
Oh.
Instead, I think they just decided, let's try and work
let's
on
work
this.
it out. Maybe they're going to marriage counseling.
Yeah, and later they talk about they had tried some of those, seen a psychiatrist and done some counseling and like some other things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really seem like they made much headway because
sometimes it just doesn't work.
Right. But by June 1998,
I'm sure they were normal about it and everything turns out fine.
Yes. Yeah, right? Just totally happy story.
Bygones. Everything doesn't always work out.
Right.
And they just went their separate ways and walked out into the sunset.
Yeah, and that's the episode.
The end. See you next time.
So by June 1998,
Okay.
Marilyn had refiled for divorce.
Okay.
So this time it seemed like the split was going to be permanent because just under a year later, David had moved out of the house and reportedly gotten a girlfriend.
Okay, so they're like separated at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, according to an article from the Chicago Tribune, at a divorce court hearing so this is before David actually moves out of the house.
Okay.
Marilyn had attempted to prove to a judge that, quote, living with her husband was causing her emotional problems, saying that she felt ignored as a parent and as a wife.
Wow.
She also said she had feelings, this is a direct quote, feelings of, well, I was just feeling very stressed. I felt like I was always either being ignored or my authority overridden or my concerns being belittled. She also claimed at that time the stress of living together was causing physical symptoms, including severe headaches, neck and back tension, and jaw clenching, which was causing pain to her face.
Oh my gosh.
So this is kind of, she takes this to the judge and
Honey,
is like,
this man is not good for your health.
right. But despite evidence presented by Marilyn and her attorney, the judge denied her request to force David to move out, although he did eventually move out.
Okay.
It seems like once him and this girlfriend sort of got serious,
right,
he sort of fucked off.
Good.
Out of the house.
Off he will fuck.
So it's obvious Marilyn was going through some shit in
Right.
like the early part of 1999.
I hope she got like a night guard.
For your jaw?
Yeah, clenching your teeth is bad for you,
Yeah.
Marilyn.
Yeah. And that definitely does cause face pain, jaw pain, headaches, all of
That's
that.
like really extreme though. Like
Yeah.
how annoying was this guy? I can't wait to hear the rest.
So
I'm holding on to my shorts.
many. Are you tight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Always.
Oh my God. Many friends later reported if she was having any stress, that she hid it pretty well.
Okay.
Family members would say that she suffered from postpartum depression following the birth of her youngest child, Thomas, which eventually transformed into full-fledged depression.
Okay.
Which obviously didn't improve as she was trying to navigate this divorce that was
Very stressful time, I'm sure.
Yes. But the real right turn sort of came when David started dating this girlfriend during their divorce and divorce proceedings. And
Which I'm sure is hard to see.
And she was really worried about the impact that it was going to have on the kids.
Rightfully so.
That's
That's
there's
what I
this
was
new
thinking.
person hanging around. Yeah.
You want to make sure they're not crazy.
Right. So around January of 1999, Marilyn began attending a support group for separated, divorced, and widowed people.
Okay.
But still, a lot of friends and people around her were saying that she was outgoing and that the depression was not causing any isolation or obvious isolation.
So she's
in her
hiding
life.
it pretty well.
Yes.
Which is very common.
Yeah.
Again, I will say.
Yeah.
That's very common, especially for women.
Right. And I think, especially and we'll get into this a little bit later,
Yeah.
but depression was seen as this, if you're not debilitated.
Right, then you're fine.
Right.
Right.
So we will get into that a little bit later, but that is also very much.
And I'm not trying to interject, but I had postpartum anxiety with my first son. I didn't know, but looking back, I definitely did. And I still hear people talk about oh my God, you were so happy and excited. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, I'm walking my son down the street in a stroller. What if a snake comes out of the yard and bites him? I've never seen a snake in my life.
No,
Girl, that's not gonna
not out
happen.
here.
But no one would know,
Right,
because
right.
you hide it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know the details of this case, but right now I'm feeling pretty sorry for Miss Marilyn. 'Cause
Yeah.
That sucks to have to go through that and a divorce. That she must be really stressed out.
Yeah. So things in the Lemack household take a tragic and horrific turn.
Oh no.
When on the afternoon of March 4th, 1999, Marilyn drugged 6-year-old Emily and 3-year-old Thomas with Ativan and Zoloft.
Oh.
She then went downstairs, gave her 7-year-old son Nicholas a bagel with peanut butter that had Ativan sprinkled on top.
Oh.
She then waited until the children were unconscious and then suffocated them to death.
Oh God.
Yes. She then went to her bedroom where she slit her wrists with a box cutter in an attempt to kill herself. However, by the time the morning came, she woke up to discover that her wounds had clotted and it hadn't worked. So she called 911 and told the operator that she had killed the children and attempted to kill herself. Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So an ambulance was immediately dispatched to the scene to get Marilyn, and she was taken to the hospital to undergo surgery for her severed arteries.
Right.
Meanwhile, police are arriving at the scene. They close off. They start investigating. There is a ton of reporting out there about what was going on with the police officers investigating because the call to the Lemack family house came immediately after the entire department was notified of the suicide death of fellow officer Sergeant Mark Carlson.
Oh.
So there was these two things happening back to back.
I see.
The department was just notified of this coworker and fellow officer
Okay.
committing suicide. And as they are about to debrief for this,
They have to go to
911
this.
call comes in and they say she's saying she murdered her kids.
Wow.
And they're like, holy shit, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Oh my gosh.
So, and it did,
I'm sure it affected the scene.
yes. Well, here's the thing is she called 911 and said, this is what happened.
Yeah.
But it was just two back-to-back tragedies.
Yeah.
It did later change some policies within the department regarding mental health and providing like mental health services to officers.
In a positive way?
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah. Like
That's nice.
providing like options for therapy.
That's
and like,
great.
Yeah. So that's good. But it was
Yeah.
just like
Oh,
something I wanted to
gosh.
point out because
What an
this is
awful
a
day.
very sad
Yeah, this
in
story
general.
sucks.
I'm sorry. I'll be the depressing one today.
Okay.
But like, I mean, it was just like these back-to-back things. It was just like, I can't believe this is happening. So police show up. They say from the outside, everything seems pretty normal. But when they enter, they see the bagel with the pills on top. They find Marilyn's blood-stained wedding dress in the bathroom because she had like pulled the dress down from the attic and was laying on it as she was
All right,
doing.
Marilyn.
Yeah, very dramatic.
Yeah.
They find all of the children. And as soon as Marilyn was out of surgery and like clear, she was immediately arrested and taken into custody. So in subsequent statements, Marilyn claimed she had murdered her children to hurt David for the way that he made her feel during their divorce. In an interview with Eric Zorn in 2022, Marilyn said, quote, "I was thinking he doesn't want me. He doesn't want the children. This is a good thing. We're going to be in a better place and he can move on. Everybody's going to be happy. Everybody. He's going to be happy. I'm going to be happy. The kids are going to be happy. Everybody's going to be happy." End quote.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sounds to me like postpartum psychosis.
Right.
Yeah, I'm getting Andrea Yates vibes.
Maybe.
Yeah,
So
that's awful.
it was clear, obviously, thanks to Marilyn calling 911, that she had indeed committed these murders. Like
Right.
there was not any
wasn't
question about
covering
that.
for anybody.
No,
Yeah, no, it was
no. So the case went to trial, but when the time came, her attorney Jack Donahue attempted an insanity defense.
Okay.
The prosecution tried to head this off at the pass, claiming Marilyn was a manipulative woman who harbored a ton of resentment towards David for the divorce and for him being so public with his dating life. They also said, quote, "This defendant in her lifetime never exhibited any delusions, hallucinations, or psychotic symptoms," end quote.
Well, yeah, but after you're pregnant, your hormones change around. There's a lot of stuff. Now, listen, I am not. I'm very unhappy right now. I hate this. I feel so sorry for those poor children. But like at the same, I feel sorry for her as well.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, like this trial would have started either end of 99, beginning of 2000.
Okay.
So like through that lens, this was, and again, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but like the understanding of the way mental health affects people.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they were just like monster woman.
Yes. Again, not making an excuse.
No, of course not.
Or defending her in any way, but like it's an important
she was so
aspect.
clearly not in her right mind.
Right.
This
According,
is sad.
I know. Sorry, we got to start off with a bummer. According to Prescription Risk, the defense said in their opinion, or in their opening statement, quote, "Do not believe such a simple explanation for why a loving mother with no criminal history would commit such an unimaginable crime. She suffered a profound depression that she actually believed her children would be reunited in a magical place away from their pain. She made a decision to free David Lemak so he could begin a new life. It was a sad end to a fairy tale. Marilyn thought how it would be better if all of them could go to sleep and wake up in a happier place."
Right.
End
And
quote.
that's textbook like depression, like suicidal ideation. That's not realistic. Like I'm not even talking just in like a people can believe what they believe about the afterlife and stuff, but it's you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Like,
right.
That's not rational thinking to be like, well, let's just hurry along to that fabulous place. Nope. They're little. They got stuff to do.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Now,
This is sad.
obviously, David testified at trial.
Right.
He talked about how their life together was great and they did a bunch of traveling before they had the kids. When he was asked what kind of mother she was, David said, quote, "Lynn was a wonderful mother, kind, loving, nurturing, but she often seemed frustrated by motherhood. We talked to parenting experts and psychiatrists. We hired a host of nannies, au pairs, and babysitters to help her," end quote. When he was asked if he believed if she was in her right mind at the time of the murders, David said yes. He believed that she was sane. But when Marilyn's father was called to the stand, he claimed she was not the same person that he knew, and she couldn't have understood the gravity of her crimes at the time they were committed. This is really the big question of the trial.
Yeah.
Was she sane at the time that she committed these murders?
So
Does she because by...
That's what I'm thinking, by legal definition.
Yeah.
As soon as you were like, they pled insanity, I'm like, that needs to be thrown out because she called the police. It's like admitting what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah, but she called the police the next morning after
because she
had committed the murders.
Because she killed herself.
She tried,
She tried to, right. She was
But it only matters if you were sane or
I
understanding
see.
the gravity of her crimes at the time that they occurred.
Okay, I see. So since it's the next morning, it's like a gray.
Yeah.
I see.
Because there's also an idea that you could come to your senses or, there's no really like book on how long psychosis lasts.
I see.
Yeah.
But like that,
So that's the thing.
Man, this is making me mad.
Sorry, girl.
No, I think that she was so clearly like in a mental health crisis. Like even like the grinding of the teeth and the severe headaches, like a lot of those, not to like, now everyone on listening at home is going to go on WebMDB. If you have headaches sometimes, you're fine.
Yeah.
But like these are all concerning symptoms. Like I'm sure her husband was not that annoying that he's giving her migraines every single day, although it is possible.
Yeah,
like that to me seems like something is going wrong in her brain.
Right.
And she couldn't have known what would happen.
We didn't understand what was going on. Yeah.
Right. She had an emotional break. That's
Right.
my opinion.
There were a number of mental health professionals, both for the defense and the prosecution. They called them both to testify.
That's good.
As to her mental state during the murders.
Right.
One said she witnessed Marilyn in a daze in the jail following her arrest. And she didn't even mention the killings, not really realizing what she had done until 13 days later.
Oh, wow.
Another said he had examined her 43 times and said, quote, I do not believe she was malingering or faking her major depressive disorder. As you would expect, of course.
Right.
Prosecution had their own witnesses and doctors that came in to refute all of this.
Right.
One of them, James Kavanaugh Jr., who, according to Prescription Risk, worked both the Gacy and John Hinckley cases, said, quote, I have never seen in my career someone as methodical with careful implementation do what she did. She didn't become severely depressed until after she killed her children, end quote. And yet even another said she had changed her story over time to fit to match an insanity defense.
See, I just don't agree.
Whose experts are you going to believe?
The ones I already believe.
So
That's tough.
I know. And I can't imagine sitting on a jury.
Not for me, but some other people.
This type of case is really tough in court because the jury already has to sit through some obviously horrific details of this crime and likely see crime scene photos and things like that.
It's hard to be impartial.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she had already committed or admitted to committing the crimes, like it really was a matter of, is she just guilty or is she guilty by reason of insanity? Like that really is what this trial was about.
It's really just kind of like determining sentencing then? Okay.
Yeah.
Punishment.
So on December 18th, after 9 hours of deliberation, the jury found Marilyn guilty of all of the murders. They completely rejected the insanity defense. During her sentencing, the judge said, quote, it is the order of this court that you will be sentenced to a term of natural life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for the deaths of Nicholas, Emily, and Thomas Lemak. A life sentencing for murdering your 3 young children will force you every day to ponder the terrible acts you committed. It is appropriate you spend the rest of your life thinking about these children. You may even see images of your children as you sit in prison and hear their voices. Why, Mom? We loved you, Mom. Why did you do this?
Oh, my God.
End quote. Which was considered kind of extreme because typically, especially when you're just reading verdicts.
Right. You don't really do that.
And that was, granted, that was sentencing.
Yeah,
that was
but
sentencing.
no, I understand. Like
But
as a judge, you're supposed to be a little bit.
it kind of depends on the case, but for this particular judge, it was unusual
Very
for
out of
him to
character.
comment to that extent.
Got it. And I think that like it's a horrible crime. It's a horrible shame. My heart is broken, but like you can't You can't use that as bias to be angry at this woman.
Yeah. But also, I do
not
think
fair.
she's murdered her kids
I do too, but
and should probably be in prison or an institution for the remainder.
I don't think that she's blameless.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Man.
I know.
just feel
This is the
sad.
sticky side, man.
Yes.
Yep. So currently, Marilyn Lemak is serving her life sentence at the Logan Correctional Center in Lincoln, Illinois.
Okay.
Now, as I said before, obviously we were just talking about Marilyn. There wasn't a question that she killed her kids, right?
Right.
But in the years since her conviction, the question of mental health has played a much larger role in murder convictions and caused people to question whether or not it should have been taken into consideration more in Marilyn's conviction.
Right.
Obviously, that's been a theme through this whole thing.
Right.
At this point in time, in the late 90s and early 2000s, the public's understanding of depression and specifically the way medication affects cognition was not where it is now.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
At all. 5 years, just 5 years after her conviction, the idea of involuntary intoxication as a defense in these type of cases started to take hold. Specifically in Illinois, it sort of became like an approved defense method.
Do you mean like maybe she overdosed on her medicine?
Not even
Or like it's affecting her incorrectly?
Yeah, not even that she overdosed. So this is again from Prescription Risk. Quote, involuntary intoxication occurs when a person commits a crime due to trickery, force, or a medication prescribed by a doctor. Particularly the use of Zoloft has in some studies been linked to extreme acts of violence, even when taking
Okay.
prescribed.
So like it could lead to the psychosis is what that's saying.
Even if
Got
you're
it.
taking it as prescribed by a doctor.
Sometimes it just reacts poorly.
Yeah, and like
I
depression,
see.
even now, like depression medications
Yes.
are not universal for every person on earth. Like
Right.
different ones affect people different ways. So even if the doctor, you're taking it as prescribed by a doctor, it
There are
could
still
be
risks.
It could be too much. It could be affecting just the brain chemistry in a way
Right.
that's unexpected.
I see.
Causing maybe more depressive episodes,
Yeah.
potentials for violence or psychosis. Yeah, which is, again, something that hasn't really been noted until now.
Right.
I don't think Zoloft is actually used really anymore. There's other medications that have taken the place of that, or is that still a thing?
I don't know, actually. I was going to say, I haven't really heard about Zoloft in a
Yeah,
while.
it was big at this, like in the 90s.
Yeah.
But like, I think that has kind of
Yeah.
tapered off.
Yeah, it does seem like kind of like a vintage drug.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Old school.
And this could be one of the reasons why. Like it
Yeah.
seemed like one of the more unpredictable.
Wow, that is so scary.
Yeah. So that is the very sad story of
Aw,
Marilyn Lemak.
that is sad.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel really sorry for her.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for everybody.
Everybody. Literally everybody. It's like nobody ends up happy in this
nobody
situation.
won in this one.
No.
That is sad. Okay, my turn. So, as a professional big baby, when you were like, let's do Familicide, I'm like, ugh,
I know.
do I have to?
Sorry, girl.
So
I won't do this to you
I
every
cheated.
time.
Okay. Well, I'm going to cheat every time. So this is a story of Familicide, but maybe not like the traditional route.
Okay.
Because I think people think of Familicide always as like parents killing their children.
Okay.
But then you very helpfully pointed out
Yes.
to me when I was texting you, like, I can't do this. I keep trying to watch documentaries about dead kids and I'm having a panic attack. And
Yeah.
you're like, just do the opposite. Do a kid killing their parents. I'm
There
like,
are
"Ow."
so many unfortunately,
Very
examples of kids
Yeah.
killing their parents or killing their family members.
Yup.
Or
Yup.
Yep. It happens.
And I don't know why that's easier for me to read about, but it is. I'm not making light of it. Still not an activity I encourage.
Yeah. But damn the man.
Yeah, yeah. Break your chains, children. Just Pearl Jam just starts slowly
Oppression.
playing.
Yeah, oh my God.
Throw the Molotovs, children. So, in that note, this is the case of Rick Ennis.
Okay.
So we're starting, again, this is a little bit of an unconventional one for this topic. So we're starting with a woman named Lori. Lori Ann
You can do it.
Slasinski. I listened to the computer pronounce it, and I was like, I got
this.
And now I forgot.
You got to write out that
Slasinski.
You got to write out that phonetic pronunciation.
I know.
You're
should
a fool
have.
if you don't think I do that, because I would 100% do that.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, peek behind the curtain. I write out my phonetic pronunciations.
Tune in at the end of the episode for our behind-the-scenes look at the making the Bad Taste True Crime podcast. So on a Saturday evening, June 10th, 2006, Lori Ann Slasinski, got it, no problem.
Nice.
Had
Got it in
planned
one.
what sounds like a fantastic night with her longtime best friend, Lindsay Braun. The two women had been friends for years. They met, so this is in Alabama. They both attended Auburn University.
Okay.
And so they met during their junior year and became fast friends.
Nice.
After graduating together in 2004, they started working at the local mental health care facility.
Okay.
I'm guessing they were like candy stripers or something like that.
What year was this?
This was 2004.
Okay. Do we still have candy stripers in the year 2000?
I don't know. It's Alabama. I feel like they still would.
That's true. But I get what you're saying. Like, sort of just like restocking things, bringing snacks.
Yeah, they weren't like medical professionals or anything. Yeah. So they're coworkers, they're besties, they love each other. And on that Saturday evening in June, they were planning a girls' night together. Lori was going to come over to Lindsay's house like they had many other times. This is a quote from Lindsay. We were going to have rum runners, I believe, and watch a movie and just kind of hang out and do girl time.
Love a good rum runner.
I know. I was like, this is so cute.
Yeah.
So it's that night. Lori's got some stuff to do, so she's just waiting for her to come over. Braun later said Lori called that night around 6:30 p.m. and said she had to stop at the store to pick up mixers and then she would head over.
Okay.
During the phone call, Braun could hear someone else in the background of the call, Lori's other friend, Ryan Ennis. Now, yeah, this didn't make her like super concerned because they were friends. Back in the day when she was in college, Lori and Ryan had worked together at like a bowling alley. So he was just like her coworker.
Yeah.
So when she heard him in the background, she was like, oh, whatever. They're probably just hanging out. And then she's going to come over.
Okay.
But as the hours ticked by, Lori never showed up. Lindsay was definitely concerned because this was very out of character for her.
Yeah.
But something that she said in one of her interviews is they had another friend who had like just had a baby and Lori was very attentive. So she's like, maybe she went over to see the baby.
Yeah.
Lori was beautiful and popular. And although she was described as trustworthy, she was like, you know, she wouldn't be the first one to forget we had plans.
She's like, is she like flighty? Like kind of.
No, but she's just like got a lot of stuff going on. She's very sociable. So she's like, you know, she's worried, but she's like, okay, maybe
she wouldn't have like called. I mean, it wouldn't be uncharacteristic if she just forgot to.
That is, yeah.
I feel that.
Yes.
I'm that way.
I was gonna say
I can be.
Gemini.
I can be.
She's
yes.
just like, I've got other things going on. I'm just flitting from event to event.
Yep.
I should have looked up her birthday.
The big flitter.
Maybe she's a Gemini. Sorry. The next day, Lindsay tried to reach Lori by phone several times, but was unable to. So that was on Sunday.
Okay.
And then, so throughout Sunday, Lindsay tried to call her missing friend, getting more and more frantic each time. She even got in contact with Ryan Ennis. She sent him a text about her growing concern, and he reportedly responded that Lori would, quote, probably be fine.
Okay.
Nice. Very, very helpful.
She's probably.
Thanks. Yeah, probably.
It's good.
I don't know. Don't even worry about
fine.
it. So on Monday, June 12th, Lori would be a no-show to her job at the local mental health center. This was extremely uncharacteristic.
Yeah.
Uncharacteristic enough that even though Lori was a grown woman, when she didn't show up again on Tuesday, they called her mother, who she did not live with. They were like, where is your daughter? Because she has never done this before.
Yeah.
And Lindsay was tired of waiting around. So her and another coworker that they were friends with decided to go to Lori's house and see if they could find her.
Every part of me is like, this is when you call the police.
Right.
With adults, 2 days.
Right.
Police.
Right.
Police.
I completely agree.
Anyway. But I mean, at least they're doing something. They're like trying to see at least what's going on.
Right. Which was a good idea. Now, Lori lived in a nearby trailer park. So I will say that at first I was like, ooh, a little bit of a sketchy area. And that is my bad because I looked up pictures of this trailer park. It is so cute.
Don't
It is,
prejudge.
the cleanest trailer park. It is gorgeous. I have I'm going to show you if I have it. Why wouldn't I have it? Oh, that's so cool and professional. I love that for me. Okay, I'll show you later.
Okay. Yeah, not all trailer parks are like
It's
as you would
really,
expect.
it's like 60s. Like,
Yeah.
it's very cute. And a lot of students lived there.
Yeah.
So it was like really
That'd be
clean. I
pretty
was
cool.
like, wow.
Yeah.
When Lindsay and her coworker arrive at Lori's trailer, though, they notice that not only is her car gone, the front door is unlocked. The two women head inside to find it eerily quiet until they hear barking. Lori's beloved dog, Peanut, was tucked safely into his crate in the kitchen. The woman let him out expecting him to be hungry because as they looked around, they were like, nobody's been in here
Yeah.
like for days. Like, it's so quiet. He was happy, appeared well fed, and the bedding that was in the crate had not even been soiled. So it appeared
Okay.
like someone had been taking care of him,
Okay.
which is still kind of a mystery.
Really?
Yeah. It never explicitly says, like, at the end, it's kind of like, okay, like, you kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
But they're not, like, 100% sure.
Okay.
Spooky, spooky. Her friends knew this was, like, the last straw. They knew she would never, ever go anywhere without her dog. Lindsay and Lori were such good friends that she could immediately tell where stuff in the trailer had been moved around. The little dog, Peanut, who's like this little like brown like terrier, super cute, couldn't walk on tile because he would like slip around. He didn't like it.
Oh, yeah.
So she and her whole kitchen was tiled. So she had put down like 3 or 4 like large rugs so that he could walk in the kitchen. Those rugs were gone.
Okay.
And Lindsay went in the back and her outside trash can is gone.
Okay.
Now, this is a detail of the case that like really like sent shivers up my spine. Remember how I said they called her mom?
Yeah.
So her mom showed up immediately, like drove like quite a while to get there because she was like, something is wrong. My daughter would never do this. She showed up. She went into the bedroom and noticed that the long cord. Now, this is dating us a little bit, but if you ever had a house phone or like maybe your grandparents had one, the cord for a house phone is really, really long.
Yeah.
That
they
was
used to be huge.
missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have so many, there are things in my head. Wheels are turning.
Yup.
Okay.
Yup.
Okay.
So on that Tuesday, June 13th, Lori Slasinski is officially reported missing.
Okay.
So the police start right away. To their credit, they're starting right away. They already start to interview witnesses. We'll go back into that a little more later. But on June 14th, the next day, at the end of a deserted dead-end street not far from the trailer park where Lori had lived, at about 4:40 in the morning, there was a massive explosion. When the flames were extinguished, responding officers discovered the source of the fire, Lori's formerly missing car.
Ooh. Okay.
Now, you would expect, true crimers, I know
Oh my
I did,
gosh.
that they're about to find Lori's remains in the car.
Or something.
Or something.
And like literally anything.
Maybe I'm just morbid, but that's immediately what I thought is like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like that's
Yeah.
where she's going to be at. But they determined that there were no human remains inside the car or around the area and that it wouldn't have gotten hot enough to like destroy it.
Right.
Although it may have destroyed evidence in the car, which is what they believed was the purpose.
Yeah.
That whoever had done this to Lori had filled it with everything
This is
and blown it up.
all so spooky.
Isn't
like it would
it?
make for a good movie
Do you
because
see
there's
why I
just
love
like
this one?
little pieces happening.
Yes, it's weird.
Oh
it
my
would be a
gosh.
really good like miniseries, I feel.
Spooky.
Very spooky.
Okay.
So they did find some evidence though around the car. I'm guessing it got like booted out. They found a cigarette butt that was collected but not tested at that time.
Okay.
Which, why? And a gas can.
Okay.
So, kind of important. Now, again, the investigation had already started and they'd already interviewed a key witness, Ryan Ennis, because, of course, Lindsey Braun had been like, hey, he was in the background of that call. So he was the last person to have seen her. So they brought him in right away. So he'd been interviewed by police on June 13th, where he denied any wrongdoing, kind of. He denied any wrongdoing when it came to Lori's disappearance, but he did decide to claim that he and Lori were growing marijuana together, which of course in 2004 in America is super illegal.
Yeah.
And also that is a bullshit. because all of Lori's friends were like, no, she was super straight edge. There was no way she would grow marijuana.
Yeah, and that's definitely like a misdirection thing.
Yeah,
It's one of those like,
absolutely.
let me admit to this lesser.
I've been
thing.
on such an interrogation kick, and they all do that. They're like, I didn't kill that girl, but I did do
this.
heroin a week ago.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so you know I'm not lying to you. Let me give you
'Cause
this
I
like
wouldn't tell
truth
a cop
bomb.
that.
Right.
Yeah, sneaky. That's exactly what I thought. So he suggests that Lori had been dealing with some shady characters because, of course, they're growing this pot. And eventually it turned from what sounds like a small scale, maybe they're growing it in like his backyard or something, to Lori's a drug dealer.
Okay.
Dealing with all these. And like, I'll show you a picture of her later. She's like a cute little blonde. Like, she's not a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Like, not even just by appearances alone. She's like very successful. Like, it's just really, really stupid that he's claiming this. She was not that girl. Despite his weirdness, the cops released him, although as soon as the car got torched, they snatched his ass back up. This time, detectives noticed thin scratches covering his arms. I'm going to show you a picture.
Okay.
Look at those scratches.
Yeah.
Don't they look suspicious?
They look like fingers.
Like fingers,
Like
exactly. It's like
finger
those
distance,
thin
nail distance.
scratches, exactly,
Yeah.
all over his forearm. Like, come on, girl. And he didn't even try to come up with an explanation. He just was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
What scratches?
Yeah.
What do you mean? So this is what they found in his car. This is how you know that he's normal and innocent. They found in his car all of these cleaning products.
Okay, so just to describe to you guys, there's nail polish remover. There is like looks like Drano type stuff.
It's
There's like pine sol.
Yeah.
Tiki torches.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming maybe he had for the fluid inside of the tiki
Correct,
torches.
which is called citronella, and
Yes,
it's a
that's
scent
it.
killer. So
Yeah.
all of this is like, there's like, hold on, I can't count. There's like at least 15 bottles.
Yeah, it's a
of
lot.
Miscellaneous
It's like
product
a
here.
liquor cabinet,
Right.
except with cleaning products.
Right.
is what it looks
And
like.
a lot of it is focused around like scent removal.
Yes.
Yeah, very suspicious.
Yeah.
They also found these fuzzy handcuffs. Normal to
Weird.
have in
I
your
mean,
car.
I'm not gonna kink shame.
No, for real, but it's like, okay, in the car though, relax.
You never know.
And this weird looking fucking knife.
It looks like a knife, but has a little
Looks like a pop-out
circle
one. Yeah. It looks
in the
like,
middle to like spin around on people.
Yeah, it's like definitely a decorative knife.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It looks like something off of like Naruto or something. It's
Yeah,
got like a little,
yeah.
like, it's not like a regular like
It's not
pocket
big.
knife
It's
or a
not
hunting
big.
knife. No, and there's a picture of one of the prosecutors holding it. It's like super small. It's not even
Okay.
as long as her index finger.
Yeah.
So it's
it
not
does
like a
look like one
normal
of those
knife to
flip
have.
up like
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Something he bought because he thought it was cool, I'm sure.
Right.
So despite all of that fucking weird shit, along with many inconsistencies noticed in his statements to police, they simply did not have enough evidence to keep him, and so Ryan Ennis walked free. Well, he like ran free because he moved away very shortly after being interviewed a second time and kind of dropped off the face of the earth.
Okay.
Without any new evidence coming in, the case sadly went cold. 10 years later, in 2016, a super badass cold case unit was formed by Mark Whitaker, a special agent with the Alabama State Bureau of Investigation.
Okay.
This quickly led him to Lori's case, and once he started looking, he couldn't believe what he found. So when they were looking through the case files, they found an important piece of evidence. I can't believe this. The results of a forensic report from 2007 showed that Ennis's DNA had been identified in Lori's trailer. There was a spot of blood on the interior of like Lori's front door, and then there was seminal fluid found on her bed sheets.
Okay.
Ennis's seminal fluid.
Okay.
Whitaker, this agent, this is a direct quote from him. He said his inconsistencies in his statements made no sense whatsoever. We knew Lori was not a drug dealer. She vanished off the face of the earth when he's the last one to ever see her.
Okay.
So it kind of
yeah.
seems like he was going for him from the start, which makes sense because she was a normal person with no enemies.
Yeah, yeah.
Investigators say they also recovered the 3 rugs that were missing from Lori's trailer.
Okay.
Ennis had brought them back to where he was living and had like kind of tried to stow them. And his roommates, thank God, had been like, this is kind of weird. We're going to call the police. And there was blood His blood and her blood were found
On the rugs.
on the rugs.
Okay. I was wondering what happened to those.
As they were looking over all of this physical evidence, detectives uncovered something hidden away in Ryan's past. Now, you're all probably thinking, Rachel, this case is really interesting and you're so pretty. But isn't this supposed to be the Familicide episode?
I have literally been thinking that this whole time. I'm like waiting. I'm waiting
Don't even
for that. I'm
worry.
like,
I
Rachel,
got
where is
you.
the Familicide part of
I just
this?
lied. It's not Familicide at all. No,
I was
it is.
like,
It is.
okay.
It literally is.
Be ready for me to call you out at the end of the episode.
I just run out of the house. Bye. Bye. See you later. Thanks for having me. Love you. Literally, calm down. I got you. So obviously, they're like, let's look into this guy because it seems like
Okay.
he's our prime suspect. For this to go into the topic of the story, we have to look back again almost 30 years ago now to March 3rd, 1993, when Alabama State Trooper John Clark happened across a then 12-year-old Rick Ennis wandering on a dark highway near Montgomery in the middle of the night.
Okay.
At first, the trooper had not noticed the boy. He had noticed the car, the Ennis's family vehicle, which Ennis had just crashed into a fence.
So he, at 12, took the car and crashed into a fence.
Correct. So
Okay.
literally it was, he pulls up, he's like, oh, a crashed car. Oh no. Like it kind of sounds like it was a country
Yeah.
highway, like not a lot of
Yeah.
people. So he was kind of like, oh dang, like I hope everybody's okay. And then he's like, is that a child walking up the road?
Oh
like
my
the kid's just
God.
like casually like doo bye-bye.
Yo, that's
Wasn't
weird.
me. Officer Clark, clearly suspicious by this odd scene, questioned the boy who was wearing a backpack. He was like, okay, buddy, can I just check your backpack? And he calmly handed it over. When the officer pulled out a long kitchen knife and spare ammunition, he knew this was no ordinary
Oh,
child.
God. Oh, my God.
Yeah, no
Okay.
Tamagotchi, no action figures, just knives and bullets. Like, come on.
Okay.
What Rick Ennis would confess to in the back of his squad car chilled the seasoned officer to the core. Yep, that's right. The same Rick Ennis who is now suspected of the disappearance and murder of his former friend Lori Ann Slasinski would just casually confess to the officer that he had just murdered both of his parents.
What? Okay. Oh my God.
This
what
is
the fuck?
Right?
And he was 12?
12.
Yo. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like from nowhere. Like this poor officer is probably like, oh, probably some drunk person ran off the road. Let me make sure everybody's okay. Oh, there's a kid. Hope he's safe. Oh, you're a fucking
you
murderer.
didn't tell me to hold on to my pants. Now they're off. Now they're off.
No pants. This is a no pants podcast. Welcome back to the No Pants podcast, where if
The no pants
if you
zone.
weren't dropping trow, you certainly are now. So fired. You never hear from me again.
Oh
she just
my God.
pulls a lever and I
Yo.
full on a I fall into a
Where's
trap
that?
door.
Where's that big cane that comes out and grabs you by the neck?
Yoink. This is a direct quote from the officer who like captured him, Clark. He said, I said, where are your parents? He looked right at me and he said, I killed them both. No tears, no emotion, nothing. Police were obviously dispatched to Ennis's address where they found a gruesome and disturbing scene. They were able to verify, along with more emotionless confessions from Ennis, that he had initially shot his mother, Dolly, in the face with his stepfather's gun, with a shotgun.
Okay.
This is gross, sorry. Then he beat her to death with a baseball bat, which, like, okay, I'm so sorry. I'm not a doctor. You shotgunned her in the face. Like, how much more was there to do?
Yeah.
Like, you're gross. Then he lay in wait for his stepfather, Eddie Joe Flowers, to arrive home from work. Then he shot him point blank, also in the face.
Okay.
He then lived with the bodies for 2 days, continuing to pretend that his parents were still alive. Like, there wasn't a lot of information about this, but it was March. So I'm sure he probably went to school. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is like he's 12,
Yeah.
so there is even with like
He could have just gotten on the bus.
the excessive bat
Yeah.
beating and everything, like there is this very like childlike perception
That's true.
that is happening where it's
Yeah.
like, well, if I do this, then she's definitely dead,
Right.
And like if I just don't say anything, nobody's ever gonna know.
That's true.
Like kind of childlike
Yeah.
aspect
12
to
is
it too.
young.
Yes. Yeah. He's
young.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
That's crazy. That is wild.
At some point, he was like, okay, I don't want to live here anymore. Stole the family car, crashed it, and here we are. So how did we get from here to Lori Slasinski? I'm going to tell you. Due to Alabama law, Rick could only be incarcerated for his crimes because he was a minor, until he turned 21. So he was in juvenile detention, like facilities, until he turned 21.
Yeah. And
then he moved to Auburn, where he started working in a bowling alley, which is where he met Lori.
Okay.
Based on this evidence, investigators...
So wait, hold on. So he had like kind of been freshly out of prison.
Right.
When he met
For
Lori.
like a couple years, yeah. It was not that long after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And nobody knew. So he would tell... Because he was just like a normal, everyone was like, oh, he's just normal. He would tell people that his parents were dead and that he had no family, but he obviously wouldn't tell them what happened. So much so that he had actually one year Lori's mother had invited him over for Christmas. She was like, I thought it was so sad that he had no parents. Mm-hmm. But then they found out he killed them. How eerie. I hate
this
that.
Is just so unbelievable.
Isn't this a cool case?
Okay.
So on August 6, 2018, 12 years after Lori Slasinski went missing, a task force of U.S. Marshals arrested Rick Ennis.
Okay.
Now, this was 2018. Obviously, they didn't have a lot of stuff together until about 2020 when the pandemic temporarily ground the courts to a halt. So the trial did not begin until March 2022.
Okay.
Which I think was good because they ended up getting a lot of extra evidence.
They had like extra time to sort of,
Yeah, like they got the rugs
everything.
from his roommates, which I still think is like amazing that they even bothered to call that in.
Right.
You know?
That's wild.
They have a man who was friends with him named Terry Booth, who said that they'd had a conversation at a bar one time. This is a direct quote. Rick, just mainly said, I had to get rid of a bitch, Booth said. Like, he was late to the bar, and he was like, oh, man, what kept you? He's like, I had to get rid of somebody. And he's like, oh. And he thought he was joking until the court started. And then he was like, I'm going to call the police.
Yo, yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
They ended up, because of course the case was so mishandled in the beginning. Like, they had never tested the cigarette or anything like that. They did test the cigarette, and it was Rick Ennis.
Yeah.
His DNA all over it.
Yeah.
As for possible motives... Her friend, Lori's friend, Lindsay, the same friend who she was supposed to have this movie night with, which like so sad.
Yeah.
She said that Lori had told her a little before she died that her friend Rick had written her a love letter and like being like, we should be together. I love you. We're friends, but we should be together. And she had told her friend like, yeah, no, I don't really like him like that. Like, he's kind of creeping me out. He's actually been kind of weird lately. No, it's not a big deal. I'll talk to him.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the last big talks that they had. So that was the big, besides just the whole like, he's crazy, he killed his parents.
Yeah.
There was
you think
that
it was like an
idea
obsessive
of, like,
kind
rejection.
of a quality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Toxic masculinity strikes
Exactly.
again.
Exactly.
Damn.
So with his parents, it does seem like it's this very male thing. Sorry, male listeners, but not sorry. Of like, I'm not getting my way. Because when they were looking into like, why did you kill your mother and your stepfather? At the time, Ennis told investigators he was mad at his mother because she wanted to move to another town. She wanted them to move.
Oh, when he was a kid.
Yes.
This is okay.
So I'm trying to remember the time, but her and the stepfather had only been married for a couple months. I'm thinking it might have been like 8 when they were killed.
Yeah.
But it seems like, she got remarried. She's making a new start. She wants to go to a new town. And he said that he didn't want to leave his school. So he killed them both.
Okay.
But now, more recently in 2022, Ennis said that he killed his parents because his mother had been molesting him and he snapped. But I will say there's no
Evidence
of that at all. They didn't find anything at all.
Interesting.
It's not impossible, but they didn't find anything.
And again, this idea of like, my parents are telling me we're doing this and I don't want to do it.
Right. And now all of a sudden.
Very childlike.
Yeah.
And that was the interview that he gave at the time was
Right.
what he was saying.
Yes.
I mean, again, not
And
to
now
say
that
it
you're
couldn't happen, that
older-
you're like trying to cover something up or whatever,
Right.
but
Right.
especially if there isn't any evidence of abuse.
Right. It's a very, I will say, and again, not discounting abuse victims at all, but it
Right.
is a pretty common sort of after the fact
Yeah.
excuse. Defense, right. That's a better word for it. Where it's like, why didn't you say that before? I don't know.
Yeah. And I would assume, maybe not looking for sexual abuse, but like they would have examined him
Right.
after the murders when they
They
were
would have
like
had to.
arresting him and doing taking him into
Especially when you
custody.
live in like a juvenile facility.
Yeah.
They have to have some kind of, not saying those places are wonderful, but they
Yeah.
have to have a medical baseline
And that,
on
okay,
you.
so he would. Do you know what year that was? Was it in the 90s?
When he went to like juvie.
When he, like when he murdered his parents.
Let me double check. 1993.
Okay, so I don't know what kind of procedures they had then, because
Probably not great
frankly, the view of child offenders has changed.
Yeah. Definitely.
time
Drastically
over the
in
last,
just
like,
a few
20
years.
years.
Yeah.
And the way that they're treated as they're brought into the system, and
Right.
sort of. So maybe they didn't have like an examination.
Yeah. Who knows?
I don't actually know. That's a good question.
I don't know either.
Anyway.
I'm sure that like I'm just thinking like legally, I know that they would have to have a medical baseline on the
Right,
children.
right,
You know,
right.
because they're responsible for them. So I'm
Yes.
sure that they would have a base investigation of just like
Yeah.
you know, making sure he doesn't have a disease.
Sure. Sure.
But that's interesting. So if anybody knows about that, call in. Call in. Come on into our office. The defense. So when I read that, I felt conflicted, of course, because I always feel very sorry for abuse victims, not explaining or excusing what he did. But I'm like, okay. But this kind of made me think like, all right, I don't know if I believe you, Rick. Because the defense and him, who he took the stand in his own defense, which I think is, yeah, I knew you would make that face. Audience, she's rolling her eyes.
It's
It's just not a good idea.
it can be valuable, but honestly, like 9.9 times out of
Yeah.
10, it is
Because if they
normally,
don't like you,
detrimental.
that's it.
Yeah.
Like, and unlikable people don't always commit crimes. Unlikable people.
And you open yourself up to
Right.
the opposing side coming in and asking questions that you don't know what they're going to ask you.
which people can't
and-
handle, which I think is
Yeah.
crazy. I think cross-examining a witness is crazy.
Yeah.
Probably fun, though.
Probably.
So him and the defense made claims such as Lori being a drug dealer and possibly that drug dealers killed her. But they also said that the detectives, like, who came to the scene, had planted evidence against Rick, which, don't say that. That's stupid.
He said that on the stand?
Yeah.
Like they planted
He was
evidence
like, they're
against me?
framing me, which
Oh,
like, okay,
no.
I'm not being political on the podcast, but is that an impossibility? No, but don't say that in court.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like if you have evidence, that's fine. If you have a video of them like throwing a little baggie of crack on you or whatever, finesies, but you didn't have anything.
Yeah.
What did you think they were going to say, girl?
Yes.
He also claimed, because the friend came up and was like,
funny.
he wrote her a love letter and he was like following her around. He was creepy. And Rick was like, yeah, I did write her a love letter and we were having sex because she was so in love with me. And I'm like, liar.
Oh my gosh.
She would not have sex with you and not tell her friend. Shut up.
Right.
The jury deliberated for 2 days and came back with their verdict. Rick Ennis was found guilty of the murder of Lori Slasinski.
Okay. Good.
He was originally facing the death penalty, but the DA agreed to take the death penalty off the table. It was kind of due to Lori's mother. It seems like she was a very religious woman. She also,
Okay.
poor thing, she suffered a bunch of other losses in between, like her daughter's been missing. Her daughter got declared legally dead. Her son died in the meantime. And then in 2020, her husband died of COVID. So it's like she's all by herself, like this poor woman, and she
Yeah.
still is like, "Don't kill this man."
So
Like,
they didn't
that's really
find
sweet.
her body?
That's They
Okay.
have never found Lori's body.
Damn.
She's been declared legally dead, and I mean, you can kind of piece together. They did find her blood. They didn't find a hugely significant amount. I'm guessing they got in a fight. He strangled her with the phone cord because why else would it be missing? Or he used the phone cord to tie her up in the carpet, put her in the trash can, and dumped her somewhere.
Yeah.
But he has never commented on it, and they have never found her.
Okay. They're
but-
so lucky they got that evidence from the car, because a no body conviction is
really
difficult.
hard. And
That's
life,
really difficult.
life with no parole.
Yeah, that's really difficult.
Is like, that's the end.
Yeah.
Arlene, Lori's mother, said she felt agreeing to a life without parole sentence for Ennis would save her from years of potential appeal hearings. She is elderly, and this would ensure that Ennis would never be free. So on April 14th, 2022, Judge Walker sentenced Ennis to life without parole.
Okay.
So that is
wow.
That is the story of how I didn't want to talk about dead kids today.
You gotta find ways around it, man. What I'm doing on this podcast is teaching you to work the system, is what I'm doing.
Fight the power. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my gosh. I was not familiar with that, but that is
it's a
wild.
roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There are a lot of good documentaries on this case as well.
That's one that would make for like a good movie.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Again,
HBO, hit us up.
We can consult.
We're ready.
We'll be like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, do it.
This is good.
And then we'll be like, ew, don't do that.
Well, before we start teaming up with HBO to make a new series, why don't you check out this podcast?
Murder Road Trip is a true crime podcast where I, your host Haley, discuss murder cases in my car, aka the Mobile Beats Lab. Join me and my partner in crime, H.H. Gnomes, on the road. There will be games, mixtapes, and snacks as I make the research journey to murder scenes around the world. Make sure to check your back seat, and I'll see you at the next rest stop.
All right, Rachel.
Hi.
That has been our episode.
It sure has.
Do you have any final thoughts before we leave?
No.
Okay, cool. Our sound and editing is by Tiff Fullman. Our music is by Jason Zakshevsky, the Enigma. This has been the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Yes, we will.
Goodbye.
Women had left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all people in some form or another.